Everyone who went in that building knew they weren't supposed to be there. This is not some adventure. This was absolutely horrifying. And I don't care if you're saying this was not malicious or destructive, or you're describing yourself as some risk taker. Sir, you helped them by your presence. You, sir, helped terrorize and terrify the people who were trying to keep others safe. The threats that are being directed at law enforcement, the vile threats, being called names, the fact that law enforcement officers still suffer from PTSD, and now we have the prospect of another election that promises to be, who knows? This, sir, is a time where you need to be held accountable for your actions. That's what federal judge Tanya Chutkan said during her sentencing moments ago. It was to a lower level insurrectionist, somebody by the name of Spencer Offman, who was there in the crowd. He claimed that he wasn't having a major part. There's no evidence that he himself attacked any of the police officers, but he was there. He did move barricades. He wanted to serve no time in jail. Federal Judge Tanya Chutkan sentenced him to 30 days and 6 months supervised release after he entered into a plea deal. But most importantly, Judge Tanya Chutkan used this hearing, this sentencing hearing that just took place moments ago, to talk about the insurrection, how serious it was and is, what a scar it has left on our nation. And she sent a warning to those who are trying to cover this up. She sent a strong message, although she did not mention him by name, to Donald Trump, that for his actions, he and others who participated in January 6th should and will be held accountable. And this is notable because we know the Supreme Court recently granted Donald Trump absolute immunity for core constitutional functions, official acts, and from evidence being admitted regarding any of the other areas where absolute immunity would apply. That emanated from Judge Tanya Chutkan's order denying Donald Trump's motion to dismiss on absolute immunity, which went up to the D.C. Circuit, which had both Republican and Democratic appointees. They rejected Donald Trump. Trump went to his extremist right-wing Supreme Court, and in their 6-3 decision, found in favor for Donald Trump and upended our democracy. But now the matter goes back to federal Judge Tanya Chutkan, and the question is, as she looks at the Supreme Court's order on absolute immunity, for her to now determine what constitutes official acts, what constitutes core constitutional functions. She may say, I want to hold an evidentiary hearing, a mini trial, if you will, bring in evidence. Will Trump testify? Will Pence testify? Will Mark Meadows testify? Because I now need to be the trier of fact to make these determinations in the first instance. So it's powerful that Judge Tanya Chutkan right now is sending this message using another sentencing to do so. This was an article that was just posted moments ago by Politico. Kyle Chaney does a really good job, and Samantha Latson, she does well. It was horrifying, Chutkan warns, against complacency about J6. The judge in Trump's federal election subversion case used a Friday sentencing in a relatively routine January 6th case to issue the warning. The January 6th attack on the Capitol is far from ancient history, and it still inflicts pain and trauma on the police officers, Congress people, and congressional employees who lived through it, U.S. District Judge Tanya Chutkan said Friday as she sentenced a member of the pro-Trump mob. The effects of that day are still being felt, Chutkan said before sentencing the defendant, Spencer Offman, to 30 days in prison for breaching the building during the riot. Chutkan used Friday's sentencing in the relatively routine January 6th case to make the case against complacency about the danger the attack posed to democracy, characterizing it as a violent attempt to stop the peaceful transfer of power in which rioters were desecrating the center of our government. Chutkan, who was also presiding over Donald Trump's federal criminal case in Washington, D.C., didn't mention him by name, but the message that was sent was clear. By the way, she is an Obama-appointed judge. She hinted at the possibility of future political strife as a result of where we are right now. Also, kind of a implication that the Supreme Court has sold out these United States of America. So here's a pretty cool and positive story I want to share. So I got my uncle MD hearing aids, and I saw him recently over the past weekend, and he told me how much better his hearing has been. This podcast is sponsored by MD Hearing. MD Hearing is an FDA-registered, rechargeable hearing aid that costs a fraction of what typical hearing aids cost. MD Hearing's Neo model costs over 90% less than clinical hearing aids. The Neo fits inside your ear, so no one will even know it's there. Plus, MD Hearing just launched the Neo XS, MD Hearing's smallest hearing aid ever. MD Hearing recently cut their price in half. That means you can get high-quality, rechargeable digital hearing aids for only $297 a pair. MD Hearing was founded by an ENT surgeon who saw how many of his patients needed hearing aids but couldn't afford them. He made it his mission to develop a quality hearing aid that anyone could afford. I have been raving to everyone about MD hearing aids for a while now. MD Hearing is just as good as premium quality hearing aids. $297 for a pair of hearing aids this good is crazy. I can't believe I was overpaying so much for hearing aids, and I can't believe how much my uncle loves MD hearing aids. Edward S. calls MD Hearing, quote, the best hearing aid I have used at any price. It's like exactly what my uncle said. MD Hearing has sold over 1.5 million hearing aids, and they offer a 45-day risk-free trial with a 100% money-back guarantee, so you can buy with confidence. Get the hearing you deserve with MD Hearing. Go to shopmdhearing.com and use promo code Meidas, M-E-I-D-A-S, to get their new $297 when you buy a pair offer. Plus, they are adding a free extra charging case, a $100 value, just for our listeners of the show. That's shopmdhearing.com. Use our promo code Meidas and get their new $297 when you buy a pair offer. Pretty good. She went repeatedly over the police officers, the congressional employees, those who were seriously hurt and injured and died on that day, and the fact that these officers are still getting threats. And that's when she went to Offman. You helped them with your presence. You claim you went on some adventure. You claim that you were brainwashed into doing this and you thought that you were doing good. You still need to be held accountable. It was not an adventure. It was horrifying. The judge recounted seeing the live footage of rioters storming the Capitol and officers being attacked, noting that members of Congress and employees were hiding in fear for their lives. She noted that several law enforcement officers died by suicide in the weeks and months following the attack, and she mentioned 3 members of the crowd who died amid the chaos as well, including Ashley Babbitt, who was shot by a Capitol police officer as she attempted to climb through a window near the House chamber. Now, Spencer Offman, you see him right here again on the right. Here he is right here, moving barricades. You see Spencer Offman there. There he is entering the Capitol building. He was ultimately arrested on January 7th trying to climb the Lincoln Memorial. That's who we are dealing with right here. And you see him in all of these photos as they replaced the American flag with the Trump flag. It was a number of internet sleuths who actually helped identify Spencer Offman. When he was originally questioned, he denied having any involvement. He was arrested, you saw, at the Lincoln Memorial. He was asked about what he was doing on January 6th. He lied to the police and said he had no role whatsoever in it. And then through some online sleuthing, through some of the J6 hunters, they found him, they identified him, they had people call up the FBI tip line. He was then arrested, and then he pled guilty. This was one of the initial police reports right here. Spencer Offman's activities on January 6, 2021. Pursuant to a search warrant, Google provided information to the FBI that a device associated with the telephone number ending 8239 belonging to Spencer Offman of Michigan was located in or around the United States Capitol on January 6, 2021. On May 19th, 2021, Offman was interviewed by agents regarding his trip to Washington, D.C. in January. He denied being around or inside the Capitol and stated that when he witnessed individuals moving barricades and participating in violence, he realized these were not the same values he shared and left the parking lot by the Capitol. Offman denied going any further than the Capitol parking lot. False. Offman was cooperative during the interview and was open to recontact by the FBI. The investigation was closed. In April 2022, a tipster contacted the FBI, provided images of Spencer Offman moving barricades at the Capitol, and the investigation was reopened to search for additional footage, and the images that I showed you were some of the images that were found. He was then arrested again, booked, pled guilty, 30 days, which I think he should have to serve more. But again, an important message being sent, most importantly, by federal judge Tanya Chutkan here to Donald Trump, saying, look, you know what's going on. I'm giving you this warning right now. Just because the Supreme Court did that, I'm not done. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 3 million together.
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Midas by signing up to the MeidasTouch newsletter at MeidasTouch.com/newsletter.